My wife cheated while I covered her student loans, so I left everything behind and vanished. Now she's begging me to return and forgive her mistakes. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I thought supporting my wife through college was the best investment I'd ever make. When Emily and I got married, we didn't have much, just a small one-bedroom apartment, a second-hand couch, and the kind of dreams that make long nights feel bearable. I worked double shifts at the hardware store and took on freelance repair jobs on weekends. My hands were constantly cracked from paint thinner, and my back ached most nights. But every time Emily hugged me and said, "You're doing this for us," it all felt worth it. Emily was everything I thought I'd ever wanted: sweet, affectionate, and endlessly ambitious. She'd stay up late studying, papers spread across the floor, her hair in a messy bun, and I'd bring her tea just to see her smile. Once I graduate, she'd always say, "I'll take care of you for a change," and I believed her. I believed every word because that's what love is, right? Faith. But slowly, things started to shift. I noticed she began spending more first on textbooks, then on new clothes, then dinners with study friends. I brushed it off. She deserved nice things after everything she'd been through. Still, I couldn't help but notice my savings draining faster than I could refill it. While I skipped lunches and packed leftovers to work, Emily started bringing home takeout from expensive restaurants. Saying her classmates had treated her. One night, I came home exhausted, drenched from the rain, and she was on the couch scrolling through her phone, a shopping bag beside her. I laughed it off, telling myself she needed to feel normal to escape the stress of exams. I tightened the budget, cut back on myself, but I didn't mind, because back then, I thought every sacrifice was building our future. I didn't realize I was the only one building it. Emily's schedule got busier once the new semester started. She was out the door before sunrise, claiming early study sessions, and often came home past midnight, smelling faintly of perfume I didn't recognize. I'd stay up waiting, sometimes meal on the table, TV humming in the background, but she'd walk in distracted, mumble something about group projects, and head straight to the shower. I wanted to believe it was just the stress of college, but there was something colder in the way she moved around me, like I'd turned into background noise, babe. "You don't have to wait up every night," she said one evening, slipping off her heels. "It makes me feel guilty." "I don't mind," I replied, forcing a smile. "I just like seeing you before I crash." She gave a half-hearted laugh. "You're too sentimental. Focus on yourself for once." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering when I'd become someone she pitied instead of loved. At work, I found myself checking my phone every hour, waiting for a text from her. Most times there was nothing. When she did text, it was short, "Busy today." "Don't wait up still." I kept trying. I made her favorite meals, left notes in her bag, even surprised her with a new laptop for her birthday. She kissed my cheek and said, "You really didn't have to." No excitement, no warmth, just obligation. Friends told me I was lucky. She's focused, man. Driven women are rare. I nodded, swallowing the unease clawing at my stomach, because deep down, I didn't want to admit what I felt, that she was slowly slipping away, and I was too scared to chase after her. That week, as I cleaned up dinner alone again, I caught myself staring at her untouched plate and wondering, when did love start feeling so one-sided? It's strange how silence can grow louder than words. Over the next few months, Emily's affection turned into something mechanical: quick hugs, distracted smiles, kisses that felt like obligations. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that college stress was weighing on her. But somewhere deep down, I knew the woman sitting across from me at dinner wasn't the same one who once stayed up late dreaming about our future. "Why don't you come to campus sometime?" I suggested one Sunday morning as she scrolled through her phone. She barely looked up. "It's mostly boring lectures, babe." "You'd hate it?" "I don't mind boring. I just miss spending time with you." Her eyes flicked up briefly. "You're being clingy again." That word clingy hit harder than I expected. I laughed it off, pretending I didn't care, but something cracked in me. I started keeping to myself, working longer hours to avoid the silence at home. The apartment that once felt full of life now felt like a waiting room I couldn't leave. Bills piled up. Emily stopped asking about finances, assuming I had everything under control. I didn't mind carrying the load. I'd promised to. But when I saw new clothes, expensive perfumes, and study group receipts, I never questioned. A small voice in my head started whispering, This isn't right. One evening, I came home early. The living room was spotless, the faint smell of her perfume hanging in the air. On the counter was a half-finished coffee, still warm, and her phone buzzing with a message. "Can't wait to see you again." I froze when she walked in moments later, startled to see me. I just smiled and said, "Long day?" She nodded, avoiding eye contact. And in that silence, I felt that whatever we once had was slipping further away. And I was too afraid to reach out. It was a Friday evening when the first real crack appeared. I was closing up at work when my friend Mark stopped by, the kind of guy who rarely talked about anything serious. He hesitated before saying, "Hey man, I saw Emily downtown yesterday. Thought she was with you." "She told me she had a study session," I said, wiping my hands. Mark frowned. "She was at that Italian place on 5th, with some guy. Didn't look like a study buddy." The words hit me like cold water. I laughed it off, said something about her meeting classmates, but my chest tightened the whole drive home. The restaurant he mentioned wasn't cheap. I'd know I used to save up to take her there once a year on our anniversary. When Emily walked through the door that night, she looked radiant, hair done, perfume stronger than usual. "You're home early," she said, startled. "Yeah," I replied. "Slow day?" She smiled to easily. "I'm starving." "Didn't have time to grab dinner?" I wanted to ask. I wanted to demand the truth, but instead, I nodded, pretending not to notice the faint red mark on her neck or the new gold bracelet she wasn't wearing yesterday. I hated myself for staying quiet, for being the guy who swallowed his doubts because he loved her too much to face what they might mean. Later that night, she snuggled closer in bed, whispering, "I love you, you know that." Her voice trembled just slightly. I told her I loved her too, even though it sounded foreign in my own mouth. But as she drifted off, her phone lit up on the nightstand. A message popped up before the screen faded. I only caught 3 words. "Miss you already." I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The next few days passed like a blur work. Silence, fake smiles. Every time Emily's phone buzzed, she'd tilt it slightly away, her thumb moving fast before locking the screen. I told myself I wasn't the kind of man but love makes you blind, and suspicion makes you desperate. That Saturday morning, while she was in the shower, I decided to do laundry. Small attempt to feel useful in a home that no longer felt like mine. As I emptied her jeans pocket, something crinkled, a folded receipt. I almost tossed it into the trash until I saw the words Marriott Downtown printed across the top. My heart froze, the date 3 nights ago. Room for 2, her name on the booking, and a signature I didn't recognize. I sat there on the floor, water from the washing machine humming behind me, staring at that slip of paper like it held my entire marriage inside it. My hands trembled as the bathroom door opened. Emily stepped out, towel wrapped around her, humming softly, completely unaware that everything had just shattered. She asked, noticing the paper in my hand. I looked at her. "You tell me?" Her eyes widened for a split second before she forced a laugh. "It's just for a conference group study stuff." "You're overthinking again. A hotel room for 2?" My voice broke. "Don't lie to me, Emily." The mask slipped. Her shoulders dropped, her lips trembled, and tears started to fall. "It was a mistake," she whispered. "It only happened once." I was drunk. I didn't mean to. Those words burned more than any confession could. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I just sat there holding that receipt like a death certificate. And as she cried in front of me, begging for forgiveness, all I could think was, how do you mourn something that's still breathing? The next morning, the apartment felt like a graveyard, silent, suffocating, cold. Emily had spent the night crying on the couch, whispering apologies I couldn't bring myself to answer. When dawn broke, she came into the kitchen, her voice barely holding together. "I'll do anything," she said. "Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I just need you to trust me again." Her face looked wrecked, puffy eyes, trembling lipsened for a moment. The man who'd once promised her forever wanted to believe she meant it. So, against my better judgment, I agreed to try. We booked therapy sessions, talked about boundaries, trust, healing. It sounded so clinical, like patching bullet holes with tape. At first, things seemed different. She texted more, came home on time, and even deleted her social media to focus on us. But deep down, I knew something was off. Her eyes didn't match her words. 2 weeks later, while fixing a coworker's laptop, I got a message from Mark, the same friend who'd warned me before. You should see this. Attached was a screenshot from Instagram. Emily tagged in a private story by someone from her college. A photo of her and that same man laughing, drinks in hand. No guilt in sight. I felt my stomach twist. That wasn't old, the timestamp said last night. I called her, voice shaking. Where are you? At the library, she said. Late study session. I could hear music in the background. Laughter, male voices. When she got home hours later, I didn't confront her. I just watched her sleep, pretending not to notice the faint smell of cologne that wasn't mine. It was then I realized her remorse had never been real. She hadn't stopped the affair sheet, just gotten better at hiding it. And that's when I found out the worst part. She wasn't just lying to me. She was using my money to pay off his debts. After that night, something inside me broke quietly. Not in an explosive, dramatic way, of a slow, silent collapse, like a building losing its foundation brick by brick. I stopped asking questions. I stopped caring about explanations. I just existed. I went to work, came home, slept in the same bed as a woman I no longer recognized. Emily acted normal, laughing at her phone, humming while cooking, sometimes leaning in for a kiss. I didn't return. Every touch from her felt rehearsed, every smile carefully placed, as if she were playing a role in a play I'd stopped watching. Bills kept coming. Our savings account, my savings, was draining faster than ever. I checked one morning and nearly dropped my phone. Thousands gone. Transfers to her name, all marked loan repayment. My pulse pounded as I scrolled through the transactions. Realizing she'd been moving money for months, that night I confronted her, my voice eerily calm. Emily, where's the money? She froze. What money? The payments you've been making from our account. Her eyes darted away. You wouldn't understand. He needed help. Those 4 words hit harder than any betrayal, yet he needed help. Not we, not us, him. I wanted to scream, to throw every plate in the kitchen, but all I managed was a whisper. And what about me? Did I ever need help? She looked at me then, her face cold, detached. You're strong, you'll be fine. That night, I sat on the bathroom floor, staring at my reflection under the harsh fluorescent light. My eyes looked hollow. My hands shook. For the first time, I understood what it felt like to be completely disposable. To realize you've built your entire life around someone who saw you as nothing but a wallet, and as dawn crept in through the blinds, I knew I had nothing left to give, not to her, not to anyone. The morning after that confrontation, I didn't go to work. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my coffee as the clock ticked louder than usual. Emily was still asleep, her phone face down on the counter, her breathing soft and steady as if she hadn't just torn our lives apart. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I realized I couldn't fix this. I couldn't fix her, so I decided to disappear. It wasn't an impulsive choice. It was surgical. I started small, closing the joint credit card, redirecting my paycheck to a separate account, quietly paying off every shared debt I could find. I sold a few tools, cashed out my small savings, and packed only what I could carry in one duffel bag. No note yet. Not until everything was ready at night. While she slept beside me, I planned my exit. I'd find a small town, maybe by the coast, where no one knew my name. I'd change my number, delete social media, and start fresh. I didn't want revenge. I wanted silence. A week later, I told her I was covering an out-of-town renovation project. She barely looked up from her phone when I kissed her forehead goodbye. That was the last time I saw her. I drove 6 hours straight, my phone buzzing the whole way, calls, texts, missed notifications all ignored. When I reached the edge of a quiet coastal town, I parked by the water and just sat there, listening to the waves hit the rocks. For the first time in years, there was no noise, no apologies, no lies, just the sound of my own breathing and the dull ache of freedom settling in. And as the sun rose over that empty horizon, I whispered to myself, she'll never find me. Life after disappearing felt surreal, like stepping into someone else's story. I found a small room above a mechanic's shop in a sleepy coastal town, the kind of place where everyone minded their own business. The ocean was a 10-minute walk away. The salt in the air stung my lungs at first, but after a while, it started to feel like medicine. I worked odd jobs, painting fences, fixing engines, helping out at a local dock. No one asked where I came from, and I never volunteered the truth. At night, I'd sit by the shore, listening to the waves crash against the rocks, wondering how long it would take for the ghost of Emily to leave my head. Sometimes I'd reach for my phone, half expecting a message from her. But then I remembered I'd thrown my old SIM card into the ocean the day I left. That version of me, the one who begged for loyalty, drowned with it. I started writing letters. I never planned to send pages of things I wished I'd said. You taught me what love isn't. You made me realize silence can be a form of peace. You'll never know what you lost because you never valued it. Writing them felt like bleeding in private. But with every letter, I felt lighter. Months passed. My hair grew out, my skin darkened from the sun, and the nightmares stopped. Then, one afternoon, while repairing a neighbor's boat, I overheard someone mention Emily's name, her full name. I froze. Apparently, she'd been trying to track me down. Word was, her affair ended badly, and she was drowning in debt again. I should have felt pity, but all I felt was calm. The life she destroyed had already rebuilt itself quietly, far away from her reach, and for the first time in forever, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. It had been almost a year since I vanished when the past found me again. I was at the cafe near the docks, sipping black coffee after a long shift, when I opened my email out of habit. Buried between job invoices and newsletters was one that made my hands go cold. The subject line read, "Please, I'm sorry." The sender's name, Emily. I stared at it for a full minute before I opened it. The message was short, rushed, full of desperation. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to hear me out. I've changed. I made mistakes. I've lost everything. Please just tell me you're okay." My first instinct was to delete it, but my heart, traitorous as ever, wouldn't let me. I read it again, noticing how she signed off "Love Emily." That single word dug under my skin like a splinter. A few days later, more emails followed. Apologies turned into "please." She said she'd been looking for me for months, that she'd hired someone to track me down. "I can't move on until you do," she wrote. "I still dream about you." Each message pulled at the scab I'd worked so hard to heal. I didn't reply, but I couldn't bring myself to block her either. Late at night, I found myself rereading her words, searching for the woman I once knew, the one I thought I'd built a future with. Then, one morning, a new message appeared with an attachment to an old photo of us, smiling on our wedding day. The caption below it said, "Can we start over?" I shut the laptop and stared at the ocean outside my window, the waves crashing like a heartbeat. Part of me felt anger, another part something else, but mostly I felt fear, because after everything, I wasn't sure if I'd ever stopped loving her. For days, I couldn't shake her words. Every night, I lay awake, replaying the memories I'd tried so hard to bury, the laughter, the fights, the quiet moments before it all went wrong. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep running from it. Not from her, not from the ghost of what we were. I needed closure, so I agreed to meet her. One email, 5 words. Tomorrow, noon, public place. Alone. When I walked into the cafe downtown, my chest felt tight. She was already there, sitting by the window, hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she was holding onto warmth she didn't deserve. For a second, I barely recognized her. The woman who used to glow now looked hollow, tired eyes, pale skin, her wedding ring hanging loose on her finger. "Hi," she whispered when she saw me. Her voice cracked. "Emily." The silence between us stretched thin. She finally spoke, tears welling up. "I ruined everything. I know that." He left me, the debts, the lies. They swallowed me whole. I lost everything I thought mattered. I nodded slowly. "You didn't lose everything. You just threw away the one thing that was real." She reached across the table, her hand trembling. "Please, I'm not asking you to love me again. I just want you to forgive me. I can't sleep. I can't breathe knowing what I did to you." I stared at her hand, but didn't take it. "You want forgiveness? Fine, you're forgiven. But that doesn't mean I'll ever forget, and it sure as hell doesn't mean I'll ever come back." Her expression shifted, grief turning into disbelief, disbelief curdling into anger. "You're cold," she hissed. "You're not the man I married." I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. "No," I said quietly. "That man died the night you betrayed him." And with that, I walked out, leaving her mid-sob, her reflection shrinking behind the glass as I stepped back into the sunlight. I didn't look back that day. When I stepped out of that cafe, it felt like walking out of a long, suffocating nightmare. The city noise faded behind me, and for the first time in years, the world felt quiet. No weight pressing down on my chest, no guilt. Just air-clean light, unburdened. I drove straight back to the coast. The same small town that had become my refuge waited for me like an old friend. The sea breeze hit my face, salty and cold, and I let it wash away the last trace of her voice. I parked by the pier and sat there for hours just watching the waves roll in and out. Each one carried away a little more of what she'd left behind in me. Over the next few months, I rebuilt not the life I'd lost, but the one I should have chosen long ago. I started helping out at the docks full-time, fixing boats, teaching local kids how to sand and paint. I rented a tiny place overlooking the water and filled it with the sound of my own laughter again. Sometimes, I still thought about Emelena with anger, but with a kind of detached sadness. She'd once been my whole world, but now, she was just a lesson. A reminder that love without respect is just slow destruction, dressed up as devotion. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, I wrote my final unsent letter. You taught me what peace costs, and I finally paid it. Then I folded it, lit a match, and let the ashes scatter into the wind as the last ember faded. I whispered to myself, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's rebuilding quietly, so they never know how happy you became without them. And with that, I finally felt free, truly free.